Yeah. We just see. Oh, we got. Well, we got to do some trading. Come on. Dion, she's mine. Hey.
It was early May 2025, a Tuesday morning, and the Dallas Cowboys headquarters in Frisco, Texas, was about to witness a meeting that would shake the NFL. Jerry Jones had called Shedeur Sanders and his team for a sit-down he thought he could control. For decades, Jones had mastered the art of recruiting. He knew how to read a room, how to sell a vision, and how to make any player feel like putting on a Cowboys jersey was the greatest opportunity of their professional life. He had done it hundreds of times, with players far more experienced and decorated than a 24-year-old quarterback walking in from Cleveland. This meeting, by every reasonable expectation, should have been no different. Normally, these meetings follow a predictable script. Jones walks in, lays out the Cowboys' storied legacy, their global brand, their marketing power, and explains why wearing the silver and blue turns athletes into household names. Players usually sit across the table with a quiet eagerness, ready to impress, ready to listen, and ready to accept whatever structure Dallas puts in front of them. They ask polite questions, they express enthusiasm, they leave with a contract in hand, and a sense that they have been chosen by one of the most powerful organizations in professional sports. That is how it has always worked inside that building. But Shedeur Sanders did not follow that script. From the moment he stepped into the room, it was clear this was a fundamentally different kind of meeting. Jones, like he always does, started laying out the Cowboys' history, the championships, the cultural weight of the franchise, the global fan base, and the commercial opportunities that come with being a Dallas Cowboys quarterback. He painted a big picture, the kind of picture that has dazzled free agents for years. But Shedeur did not lean forward. He did not nod with excitement. He did not ask what the marketing deal structure would look like or what the training facilities offered. Instead, Shedeur Sanders reached into his side and pulled out a folder. He placed it on the table directly in front of Jerry Jones, not as an opening move in a negotiation, but as a statement. What was inside were not suggestions, not talking points, not ideas open to back and forth discussion. They were his terms. Everything from full injury guarantees and no trade protection to influence over offensive schemes and coaching decisions. The kind of structural power no quarterback in Cowboys history had ever walked in and demanded. He has demanded Jerry Jones $200 million to join the Cowboys. Not $50 million, not $100 million, $200 million. Fully guaranteed. And the demands are not just about money. He wants total control over his career. No trades allowed. Full injury guarantees. Complete say in the offensive system. Even a voice in who coaches the team. A 24-year-old quarterback walking into one of the most powerful offices in sports and laying down rules that could give him more power than any player in Cowboys history. Jones had dealt with big-name free agents before, but no one had ever walked into his office and essentially told him, "Meet my conditions, or this ends right now." Sources say Jones was shocked, but also impressed, telling people he had never seen a player walk in with such non-negotiable terms. The folder was not a starting point. It was the finish line, and Shedeur made that unmistakably clear before a single page had been turned. Shedeur stayed calm but firm, making it clear this was about respect and clarity, not disrespect. He told Jones that if the Cowboys could meet his terms, he was open to discussing life in Dallas. But if not, the door was closed and he would walk out. No small talk, no charm offensive, just business. Jones had spent decades building one of the most valuable sports empires in the world. But in that room, on that Tuesday morning, he was learning a hard lesson. NFL dynamics had changed, and Shedeur Sanders was now in the driver's seat. Now, breaking down exactly what Shedeur put in that folder reveals just how unprecedented this moment truly was. At the very top of the list, $200 million guaranteed over 5 years, $40 million a year. But this is not a partially guaranteed number dressed up with complex incentive structures and back-loaded protections. The moment he signs, every single dollar is locked in. No injury exceptions, no performance clauses, no hidden safety nets built in for the team. The money is untouchable, protected against everything. The Cowboys would be surrendering every financial backstop that organizations typically rely on to manage risk in long-term quarterback contracts. To understand just how seismic this number is, the comparison to recent deals is essential. Bryce Young, one of the top rookies in the league last year, received $37.9 million fully guaranteed. Trevor Lawrence signed for $36.8 million fully guaranteed. Shedeur is demanding more than 5 times that in guaranteed money. This is not an incremental jump from one contract generation to the next. This is a complete rewriting of the financial ceiling for quarterback contracts in the modern NFL. Next in the folder, a full no-trade clause. This is not the limited, partial version occasionally found in NFL contracts, where players can block trades to a select list of teams. Shedeur is demanding absolute veto power over any trade, under any circumstance, at any point in the contract. If he does not want to leave Dallas, he will not leave. The team has no mechanism to force him out. NFL teams guard their trade rights as one of their most valuable organizational tools because it gives them leverage over the roster even years into a deal. Surrendering that right entirely is a structural concession Dallas has never made for any player at any position, let alone at quarterback. The Cleveland factor is central to understanding why this clause exists. Shedeur made it clear, in that room and in the terms on the page, that he will not be relocated against his will again. If Dallas wants his commitment, the commitment has to go both ways, and it has to be written into the contract in language that leaves no room for interpretation. Then there is the zero offset language demand, and this one carries enormous financial weight. Normally, if a player is released due to injury or performance concerns, and then signs with a new team, the original organization can subtract what the new team pays from the remaining guaranteed balance. It is a standard financial protection built into nearly every significant NFL contract. Shedeur is cutting that out entirely. If he gets hurt, gets let go, and signs somewhere else for $20 million a year, the Cowboys still owe him every dollar of his contract. Full stop. No reductions, no offsets, no exceptions. Combined with the $200 million fully guaranteed figure and the absolute no-trade clause, the total financial exposure for Dallas under this structure is unlike anything the franchise has ever considered. And the demands did not stop at money and contract language. Shedeur is insisting on a voice in the offensive coordinator hire and the power to reject any scheme that does not fit his skills. He's not calling the plays. He's not designing the offense, but he's making it clear the team can't force him into a system that limits him. His logic is direct and difficult to argue with. If he is committing 5 years of his career and his physical health to this franchise, the offensive structure must be built around him, not the other way around. He also wants real input on staffing and coaching decisions, not final authority, but genuine influence over the coaches he works alongside every single day. This, he stated clearly, was something he was denied during his time in Cleveland, and it is not something he is willing to leave to chance again. He's negotiating from power, not desperation. He has other options. Other franchises are watching. He is not asking Dallas to take him. He is showing them exactly what it would take to get him, and making it clear that if they cannot meet those terms, another organization will. This flips the old NFL script entirely, where teams held every card and players were expected to accept whatever structure was offered to them. Shedeur Sanders walked into Jerry Jones's office and drew a line. He knows his value. He knows what he needs, and he is not bending for a logo. He told Jones that these terms are what he needs to commit his prime years to the Cowboys. And that single statement carries a weight that extends far beyond one meeting in Frisco, Texas. It signals something the NFL has not seen before. A young quarterback not positioning himself as a candidate for a job, but as a business partner setting the conditions of a partnership. The language Shedeur used in that room was not the language of a player hoping to get drafted or signed. It was the language of someone who had studied the system, understood his leverage, and decided that the old way of doing things no longer applied to him. The rest of the meeting reportedly lasted hours, with Jones asking questions, trying to understand each unusual request, exploring any flexibility. When it ended, there were no promises, but also no rejection. That detail matters enormously. Jerry Jones is not a man who walks away from conversations quietly. He has built the Dallas Cowboys into the most valuable sports franchise in the world, estimated at over $9 billion, through decades of aggressive decision-making, sharp negotiation, and an instinct for when a deal is worth pursuing, regardless of its complexity. The fact that he did not shut the door after reading through Shedeur's folder speaks to something real. He saw something in that room that gave him pause, and not in a dismissive way. After the meeting concluded, Jones reportedly told his front office that he needed time to think through whether the Cowboys were ready to fundamentally change how they handle quarterback contracts. Not adjust, not tweak, but change entirely, just to meet Shedeur's demands. That internal conversation is one of the most significant things to come out of this situation. It means the most powerful owner in the NFL is sitting across from his own executives, asking a question he has never had to ask before. Are we willing to restructure how we operate at the most important position on the field, just to bring in one player? The reaction across the rest of the league has been swift, sharp, and deeply divided. Two clear camps have formed, and the divide between them reflects something larger than just this one contract situation. It reflects a generational split in how the NFL is understood and who holds power within it. On one side, veteran executives and older analysts are calling Shedeur's demands over the top and structurally unworkable. Their argument is consistent and straightforward. No player should have this level of influence over organizational decisions, particularly coaching hires and offensive scheme selection. Teams are built through coordinated leadership structures, general managers, head coaches, coordinators, and introducing a player's veto power into that process creates a chain of command problem that could undermine the entire organization. They point out that even the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history, players with multiple Super Bowl rings and MVP awards, did not demand the kind of structural authority Shedeur is asking for at 24 years old, before winning a single game in Dallas. To this group, the demands are not just extreme, they are a precedent that could destabilize how franchises are run if other players follow the same path. But the other camp tells a completely different story, and their argument is grounded in facts that are hard to dismiss. Younger executives, current players, and those who have followed Shedeur's career closely are largely backing his position. They frame his demands not as an overreach, but as a logical response to a system that has historically placed all of the physical and professional risk on the player, while keeping all of the structural power with the organization. One well-known NFL agent, who does not even represent Shedeur, told reporters that what he is doing is smart and necessary for top-tier quarterbacks. He said Shedeur is not being greedy or unreasonable. He is making sure the terms are clear before committing, rather than trusting that an organization will treat him fairly on its own. That framing resets the entire conversation. Shedeur is not asking for something irrational. He is asking for written, contractual clarity on every dimension of his professional environment before he invests 5 years of his career and his physical health into a franchise. The risk argument is central to understanding why this support exists. Every time a starting quarterback steps onto an NFL field, he accepts a level of physical exposure that no contract can fully compensate for. Career-ending injuries are not hypothetical. They happen every season. And for years, the standard NFL contract structure has included mechanisms that allow teams to limit their financial liability when those injuries occur. Offset language, non-guaranteed back years, performance triggers. Shedeur's position is direct. If he is absorbing all of that physical risk every single week for 5 years, the financial and structural protection in his contract must reflect that reality. Not partially, completely. It is also critical to place this situation in its proper financial context. Shedeur is rumored to have been offered $90 million just to consider leaving Cleveland. Let that number sit for a moment. $90 million, not as a contract offer, but as consideration money, an amount offered simply to open the door to a conversation about leaving one franchise for another. That figure alone tells you everything about how the league values Shedeur Sanders as a quarterback. It makes his $200 million fully guaranteed demand less of a fantasy and more of an aggressive but carefully calculated position, one built on the knowledge that multiple organizations see him as a franchise-defining player, worth enormous financial commitment. For Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, the calculation is now stark and unavoidable. There is no middle path that conveniently avoids the hard decisions sitting on the table. Either Dallas agrees to a contract structure it has never offered any player in its history, one that gives a 24-year-old quarterback more financial protection and organizational influence than anyone who has ever worn the silver and blue, or it declines and watches Shedeur Sanders walk out of Frisco and become the centerpiece of a different franchise. And that second outcome carries consequences that extend well beyond losing one player in free agency. The Cowboys have one of the largest and most passionate fan bases in professional sports. They play on the biggest stages. They generate revenue that most franchises can only observe from a distance. But for all of that brand power, Dallas has not won a Super Bowl since 1996. Nearly 3 decades. The franchise has produced marketing icons and cultural moments, but not championships. If Shedeur Sanders becomes the kind of transformational quarterback his talent suggests he can be, and he does it somewhere other than Dallas because Jones would not meet his terms, that storyline will follow the Cowboys for years. Cleveland is also positioned in a complicated place as this situation develops. If Shedeur moves forward in any direction toward Dallas, the Browns could find themselves blindsided by the speed and scale of the departure. The $90 million consideration figure suggests Cleveland understood Shedeur held significant leverage, but the full scope of what he is demanding from Dallas may not have been anticipated by anyone inside that organization either. The ripple effects of this situation reach every front office in the NFL. If Shedeur secures even a significant portion of what he has outlined, the fully guaranteed money, the no-trade clause, the zero offset language, it does not just affect Dallas. It resets the baseline for how every team in the league approaches franchise quarterback negotiations going forward. Future quarterbacks will point to this contract structure as the new standard. Agents will cite it in every significant negotiation that follows. The $200 million fully guaranteed number, the absolute no-trade clause, the zero offset language, the voice and coordinator hires. Each of these, if agreed to, becomes a reference point that permanently shifts the balance of power between players and organizations at the most important position in professional football. Jones spent an entire career shaping the Cowboys into the most recognized and valuable sports franchise in the world. He has navigated labor disputes, coaching changes, star players, and media storms with the confidence of someone who has always believed he holds the advantage. But the meeting in Frisco in May 2025 may be the moment that defines how the next era of NFL quarterback power is structured, not by an owner sitting at the head of a conference table, but by a 24-year-old quarterback who walked into a billionaire's office, placed a folder on the table, and did not blink. The NFL landscape is not the same anymore. One meeting, one folder, and one young quarterback just flipped the entire script.